Good morning. When I roll my eyes, I close them now just so that I'm not obvious that I'm rolling them.
You close them and then roll them in your head?
Yes. It's meaningful to me.
It's better, I guess.
All right, what do you got?
Oh, let's see. Saw a couple different things over the weekend. Did you know it's apparently now embarrassing to have a boyfriend?
Of course.
This stuff's so dumb.
The depopulation of the earth and the infertility of women and the eroding of the nuclear family, and then boyfriends like, I see an end. I see what you're doing. You want to have no babies because you love trees and the humanity needs to be the expense. And let's save the trees and the weeds and all the other stuff.
Yeah. Now they're saying it's chic to be single.
Yeah.
If you do have a boyfriend, don't post about him online because it's embarrassing, especially if you break up and now you've already posted. Do you think our culture via social media influences articles that are written? Or do you think written articles and people looking for a story and looking for something to write about influence what we talk about on social media?
It deals with attention, whatever garners attention. Sometimes it's boobs, sometimes it's things you don't want to hear, sometimes it's dramatic events.
Yeah.
And women make up so much of the pop culture social media, especially the feminist women. So they're in control of the narratives. And so like when men go through and find out that everything's been feminized and dicks have been chopped off and, you know, no more marriages and no more having families and whatever, like men are just like, we're going to go somewhere else. Like you can have the domain of Lord of the Flies for women and go destroy it because that's what you do. And we'll pick up the pieces after it's been destroyed.
But do you think it's so? There was an article in Vogue, or maybe it was British Vogue, I'm not even sure, about this. And I'm like, okay, chicken or the egg thing. Did Vogue pick this up from social media? Or do some editors say, we need a story, we need something to talk about, here's one, and then social media ran with it?
It entices response. So if you say something that is boring but true versus dramatic and untrue, you're going to do the business model of people paying attention to you. Or you say the thing that I don't listen. We play this game of incompetent or nefarious, right? Is this a master plan, or is this just a bunch of dumb people that are in control of things? And I go back and forth and try to figure out which of the two that it is. And it is mostly incompetence, just dumb luck, right? So our culture will reflect the dumbest amongst us. If we give them the spotlight, the dumbest will become part of the culture. And then the smart people will be like, I don't want any part of this dumbness. And they will go elsewhere. They'll create a sophisticated, intelligent version of that. And it'll be on the underground.
And it'll get no media spotlight whatsoever.
It's not the point. And that's where it's really important to know in culture where dumb like gets short-term attention, but gets crushed long-term.
Yeah.
And sophisticates get no attention, but they do the crushing later on. So if you don't, the famous line, if you can't spot the sucker at the table, you are the sucker. This is a PSA, right? If you are doing dumb stuff and people are paying attention to it, you're going to get crushed in 2 years.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You get your like 15 minutes of fame. And that's really it.
Yeah. Enjoy it because you're going to get crushed. And I am not going to feel bad. Like I have no sympathy for people who are like, let me go show my boobs. And oh my God, I can't believe people are paying attention to me. And they're like, hey, why is my reputation now sullied and I can't do anything traditional? No shit. Like you made that decision. You took the easy fix and now you're screwed and I don't care. Like enjoy it.
And how do you think it would turn out if, so in this whole dumb idea of, oh, it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend, it's chic to be single. It's almost like this attempt at like a girl power kind of movement.
It is. The feminist movement destroyed culture.
What happens when one comes out that men are like, it's not cool to date girls anymore? Like, screw you guys. We're going to be single.
That's the equalizer right now. Because if, again, the turnabout is fair play is I'm going to say this every day for the next 5 years, right? Everything that you did to someone else will come back to you tenfold, right?
Because I've 100% heard women get upset at their man. Like, you don't post me. You don't even show me in pictures. It looks like you're single on your social media. What's that about? And now the women are like, oh, it's cool to do that for a woman. But if a guy's like, well, it's not cool to show my girlfriend, so yeah, I am going to look single on social media.
So if someone went girl power for 10 years, right? And they were like, I don't need no man. I'm, strong, powerful woman. And then biology kicks in and you hit your 40s and you're like, wait a minute. Nobody, I lost my aesthetic edge. Nobody pays attention to me. There's nobody that's thinking of me. All I have is my cats. I haven't created any more, whatever. And then I'm like, oh, by the way, you made a decision 10 years ago and you're going to die. Your influence is going to die with you. And everybody who didn't do that, nuclear family is going to win because that has a 40-year resiliency. You had a 10-year resiliency. Sorry you chose that, but this is basically what you get for that. Sorry.
Loneliness.
Lack of purpose, biological
What if
pressure.
they're saying, I won't feel that way. I'm going to enjoy it.
That's fine. You're cool with that. That's the freedoms that you have. You are free to experience all the benefits and you are free to experience all the costs. And that is the feminist movement. Like, let's get all the benefits and I want to push all the costs to somebody else. And that is sort of like mathematics does not agree with you. You will experience those and they will visit you later. And nobody, like, it's not empathy that's making me, take the cat lady who said men are stupid. And now all of a sudden they're like, I'm in my 40s and why won't men pay attention to me? That's probably because you demonized them for the last decade. And I don't feel any kind of sympathy for you in the moment. Like, maybe when you were trying to sort through your feelings at the time, like I would have some sympathy because you're trying to figure shit out. But you were certain and you were sure that you had good math. I could have told you that your math was terrible. And the short term, I want to get a face tattoo. Like, it felt good in the moment. Really good. I would tell you, hey, down the road, you're probably need to consider that maybe when you're out of the 20-year-old deal, that face tattoo is not going to pay dividends 40 years from now. And then 40, like, I got all this attention when I had it, and I made all this money when I had it, and I had all this prosperity when I had it. When you're 30 and you're like, oh, it's not kind of working for me anymore and feel sorry for me. F you. If you would have taken the benefits when you were experiencing it, like, I'm not going to accept these benefits because I don't want that extra attention. If you bring them in and then later on you're like, oh, why are the costs so high? Like, this is unfair and I am the victim of it. And I'm going to say, wait a minute. You took advantage of the freedoms to get the face tattoo. You took all the benefits of having the face tattoo. And all of a sudden when the costs come around, you're like, student loan debt? Why me? Like, how dare you?
You seem pretty passionate about this.
This is my sweet spot because, like, all of the wisdom of all of the ages going back 2,000 years, like, the wise ones will tell you that your decision making should not be impulsive. And when you go impulsive, I don't really care. Nobody cares if you go impulsive. But it's only when you take the wisdom of every generation before you and discount it like that doesn't really matter. And then all of a sudden in the future, bring that wisdom back up and think you're a victim of the wisdom that everybody would have told you about in the beginning, but you didn't want to listen to. That's where we part ways. And that's why I say guilt and shame should be part of culture's best weapon against really bad impulsive decisions that people make, is that, we're going to hang it over your head forever. We're going to throw it in your face forever. And so really carefully consider the decisions you make today, because the rest of us are going to say, I told you so forever.
So speaking of things that may or may not be true or brought on by social media, have you heard the supposed plan of people that have supposedly, allegedly, whatever, decided that they're going to steal groceries because of their loss of SNAP benefits? Yes. And I can't tell if this is an actual thing or if it's rage bait because it is so ridiculous.
Yeah. But it's true.
But people are ridiculous.
It's true.
So have you seen the videos and supposedly people posting about stealing and running out of the grocery stores? And I did see one that somebody said, this is AI. This is for entertainment purposes only. And then I saw another one that looked real, and everybody was like, "You're dumb. Your vehicle license plate's literally in this video. Like you just showed everything we would need to catch you. There's nobody chasing you out of the store." So some people are like, they paid for these groceries. This is just social media content. How do you feel about this whole idea?
Again, if you study history, you know what. Okay, so let's just say you have a completely integrated economy, right? You have people that are poor, people that are middle class, and people that are rich, right? And there's enough of them to sort of diffuse it. You can move from poor to middle class, and move from middle class to rich, and move from rich down to middle class, right? You have complete ability to traverse those different things. As time goes on, you have this wedge where it gets harder and harder. It's almost like you run a marathon and you have people of every different talent and skill set in the marathon. Well, if you have someone that runs a 7-minute mile and you have someone that runs a 15-minute mile, the more that you get a separation between the people who can run really well and the people who run very slowly, you have no common binding between those two groups. So the rich don't really have to fear rich people. Rich people have to fear the pitchforks and torches that come for them after they think, like the poor people look up to the rich people and say, there's more of us and we're going to burn your castle, right? We're going to carry it in. You're the evil one, and nothing is going to stop them from happening. So if you become super wealthy, half of it's preserving your wealth and half of it is defending against the pitchforks and torches, right? And you have to know that going in. That's part of the responsibility, the dichotomy between the polarization of different economic features, right? And so, like, let's just say AI comes into effect, and everybody who understands AI and the tools that generate from it, you have an extreme advantage. And you have everyone who doesn't, or like swears it off, I'm not doing AI. Well, the opportunities that are afforded to people who follow the technology are going to be immense. And everyone else is going to be like, we have nothing. Like, I can't open my car. I can't get a job. I can't do banking. I can't participate in the economy. I'm going to grab my pitchfork. And I am a force that will be represented on sheer numbers, right? If 60% of the population are pissed off, right, and all of a sudden are at an extreme disadvantage, the people who did figure it out have to defend against the people who just decided not to. And that is a metric that has to be entered into the equation. So it's so long, like, let's just say 10% of the population say, I'm not doing digital record keeping. I'm going to do everything paper. Okay. Wise people would say, yeah, you probably don't want to do that. And it's a disadvantage because eventually you're not going to be able to participate in anything because I'm going to show up to make payment and you're going to accept something that I'm not even really able to give. Yeah. And then you're stuck. Right. Yeah. But again, with the divide between those two ensures that who's going to win in this battle. If all the poor people stepped up and said, we're just going to take our food, we don't care if you're going to give it. If there's enough of them, they win. And it's so long that the media and that messaging insulates those people from repercussions, they're going to absolutely do it.
Yeah, because my first thought in this is, do they honestly not see how dumb of an idea this is when you're like, oh, well, we're going to steal food because I have to take care of my family? Who's going to take care of your family when you're in jail? So it doesn't even work out for you.
But if there's a million of them, how are they going to put everybody in jail?
And then I think to myself, I was like, oh, go look into churches, look into food pantries, look into resources that can get you food legally and you don't harm yourself and you don't put your family at risk. But is it something they want to use as a weapon? Like, I logically, and maybe some of them are dumb and they don't look at it that way, but some of them are like, I realize this is a risk, but I want to be a risk to make them give in. If they, being people in Washington that are continue the shutdown, well, now you're going to face higher crime rates until you do something about it. So I could see them sort of weaponizing it. And then some are just dumb and the
Democrats created this because they created a dependency system. Okay, let's just say you had a small city, right? You had one grocery store. and everybody used the grocery store. They went and shopped things. But let's just say 20% of your population said, this grocery store is too expensive. I'm just going to steal everything. Right. So they all decide that they're going to go and steal anything. And the grocery store is like, well, we can't do this. I mean, most of our inventory is being, stolen. I can't make money doing it. I can't pay my employees. So we shut down the grocery store. What happens to the city when a grocery store disappears? Right now, not only do the people who are willing to pay have to go elsewhere, but those people who were stealing now have to go elsewhere. So this sort of has sort of like the chaos theory to an exponent, that this is not a good, like, a bunch of people warned. And that is sort of the theme of this. Like, everybody gives wisdom warnings that if you do this thing, it's going to be really bad. And when they happen, you say, I told you so, but it doesn't matter because now your culture and the civilization is actually destroyed by the people that you enslaved with public assistance and whatever. So it doesn't even matter. So let's just say we have, 12% of all citizens are on some kind of public assistance. All right. Do you think that's a high number or a low number?
12%?
Yeah.
Feels kind of low.
You think it's low?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Is it low?
I think that's high, like super high.
Are you talking about what it should be or what it is?
Yeah. So if you have, I think it was 160 million total households. There's 390 million people.
Yeah.
And if 43 million of them are on some kind of public assistance, that means that they don't have to go to work. They get a check. They do the grocery shopping. They live a normal life with public assistance.
Yeah.
So you have to decide what your standard of how healthy is your culture. If 12% of you don't participate in the normal frictions of the economy.
Oh, I see. A high for what it should be. Not, I thought you meant like, is that
so
what it is?
If we decide, like, let's just say everybody that goes on public assistance, should public assistance be easy?
No.
Okay. So if you went on public assistance and I said, hey, here's the deal. You need some food. I get that. You need some food. I'm going to take someone who doesn't need food and they're going to be your accountability partner. They're going to visit you and give you advice and give you the math so that we don't want you on public assistance. So let's try to get you. So it's a short-term thing where you no longer need it. Yeah. And your accountability partner is going to help you absolutely get there, versus where I'm going to send you checks. There's going to be no accountability. You can stay on the assistance forever and make a livelihood off of free. That does not have good mathematical value to it, because you have a whole segment of your population that if I pull away the benefit, you're devastated.
Yeah. And I don't get why there wouldn't be, like, anybody that has ever filed for unemployment knows. I'm assuming it's still this way. I don't know. I know years and years ago I did it. You are required, like, every week, I think it is, to show that you've tried to apply for 3 jobs. Every single week. Here's 3 businesses I applied at. Here's 3 more I applied at. Here's some interviews I went on. They want to see that this isn't just your only game plan, that you're working to get off of this. Do we not have that for other benefits?
That's bullshit. That doesn't work, because you know how many people have showed up for an interview and they said the things to make sure that I didn't hire them, only because the prerequisite is that they had to do that to keep receiving a check.
Or, hey, I know that you work here. Can you just say that I applied, even though I didn't?
But I want a judgmental asshole to be your accountability partner, so that it's not made easy that you keep receiving that benefit, because it's no longer a benefit or assistance if all you're doing is trying to make the gravy train never end. If your job is to stay on it rather than get off of it, it's only... it is capturing those people into a system forever. Like I would say, a couple people have floated the idea of making every assistance 30 days limited, no matter what. And give the 30 days, no accountability. Hey, you got in a bad spot. Let's help you. But if you go 60 days, it gets harder. If it goes 90 days, it gets even harder. And 120 days, you have a person that's looking over your shoulder, that's judging you and helping you make decisions all day long. Yeah. And it shouldn't last longer than 120 days, no matter what, unless you have actual circumstances in your life that prohibit you from participating in the actual economy.
Yeah, and the thing is a lot of people want to take this as like, oh, you're being mean to those who need assistance. Oh, you're being tough on them. Put that thought aside. Why do you want to be captured by the government? When we sit here and we have conversations like there are people that are going without or may potentially go without food and suffering. Holidays are coming up. They're suffering. How are they going to provide for their families and feed themselves? And all I can think is we are the United States of America. It is 2025. How are we in that position? How have we allowed our citizens to be held hostage by our government? This, by people saying, I'd rather take the risk of being held hostage and screwed when shit hits the fan. And then the rest of the year, when we're not shut down, I can get whatever I want and not have to do anything.
Well, this is evidence where it takes us a crisis and people suffering in order for it to do something about it. Like we could have said, whenever there was no problem, there was no budget crisis, no chaos, we could have said, hey, there's 43 million people on assistance. Let's try to get some of those people off and do it gracefully and do it with precision and scalpel rather than, axe kind of thing. But we can't do that. We can't take something until there's a big, massive catastrophic event in order to come to our senses and say, hold up, 33 million of us are in circumstances in the land of opportunity where there is nothing but infinite opportunity around us, and these people can't figure out. Let's figure out why these people are missing the boat informationally, where they didn't know that. Let's goes back to an earlier deal. We tell high school students that there are three major things that give you a 95% chance of success, right? And we can't get over the telling them when they're 15 years old that do these three things and you have a high probability without us saying, that's not fair to them. We don't indoctrinate them, because the Democrats want to create more of the people that are dependent on a system because it's a free ride to everything's free and everybody takes care of you. And people like you and I that say, all right, government's terrible. They make terrible decisions. Do not ever become dependent on someone who will leave you out hanging out to dry, right? But we won't use that as evidence that don't do that. That's like, no, we need to spend more money and take care of and coddle these people more instead of like, oh, they're a bad sugar daddy. Let's not do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, so Julie says 75% of SNAP recipients are children, disabled, or elderly. Why is it children? A child didn't birth itself and go on SNAP. A child had parents, possibly unprepared to have children, and now they have a generation of this family, what they will call curse of poverty, that they can't ever dig themselves out of.
Because they didn't follow the first three rules of success in life. They picked multiple sexual partners, had unplanned pregnancies, no dads, the nuclear family destroyed. That's an indictment on secular philosophy, not in nuclear conservative philosophy.
Yeah. So now if you do anything about it, you're a jerk that wants to hurt children.
So, all right. So let's just say we say the government's not in the business of helping people eat. Right? We're just out of it. Like no more free government money for people to figure things out. So we have a bunch of people who have to figure it out for themselves. What's the most likely outcome when you have 43 million people that now see that there is food at Walmart and they don't have any for themselves? What's the most likely outcome?
Apparently it's theft.
Planting a garden's not an option. Going to your church and getting someone to impart some wisdom upon you is not an option. It's if I don't get the free, I'm going to force the free and I'm going to hold you hostage for what I think should be free.
And I'm going to record myself doing this on my free cell phone.
Yeah, right.
And post it.
But again, it's a blemish. Not because people aren't charitable, it's because the government got in the business of charity and does it improper and not great. But if on my timeline this weekend I saw anything, it's that the churches and civic groups have spoken. They have set up ways. And I would love it if you walk in the church and say, I used to get free and I don't get free anymore. Can you give me some food? and they say, I've got a little office over there. Let's talk about like making sure you're never in this position again.
Yeah.
And bringing some mentors in and judging the decision-making of people who end up there. Maybe you take 50% of the people that all they need is some guidance. They need some wisdom and taking away the carrot of creating I'm going to give you free shit so you vote for me mentality into, hey, you're a human being. You've got unlimited potential. Let's convince you that you can do these things instead of you're just in a victim class where you can't do anything. And let's start guiding your decisions a little bit, making better choices.
Yeah. And our church was telling us one time they had some sort of organization set up or that they were working with, and they were there to help people with bills in a time of need. And they said somebody could come to them and say, this is a utility bill I have this month. I cannot afford it. I've fallen on hard times. We hear you. We're going to pay this bill for you this month. If you come back again the very next month with the exact same bill, we're going to say, what happened to the money? What happened to this? Like, we didn't even give you the money. We paid it. This was paid. How is this late again? Like, we're going to have a conversation. We're going to do some financial counseling. We could still help you, but not without some guidance because you're in a rut. And what happens if you don't have us anymore?
Yeah.
You die.
We want you to be productive and able to survive on your own without being on the teat of government. That's really
It's crippling the people. All these people on the far left want to say, you're a bad guy, you're a bad guy, you're a bad guy, when you take away all these things we need. And none of them want to see you're crippled. We are crippling you by allowing this. If these children have parents that don't know any better, and so all they know is the government feeds me and takes care of me, what happens if their parents die? You've crippled the children. There is no hope for them.
No survival instincts whatsoever.
Yes. And it's like, that's the cruel thing. That's the unhelpful thing. Nope. Don't want to see it. Don't want to hear that because it's easier for me to just have someone else take care of me.
When that generation of kids grow up and they've been indoctrinated into the free, check at the beginning of the month deal, they're going to expect that. And they don't even know. There's a blind spot of like, a kid coming out of high school and thinking either they're going to hit the lottery or they're going to go make a living for themselves. How much ambition is in a kid that has been told their entire life that the system's working against them, they can't make it, there's no opportunity ahead of you, and you better just go get your check because there's no other option. Like, I think that's psychological trauma for that kid. Nobody should tell a kid that they can't do and whatever. And
how do you live that way?
It's absolutely abuse.
There's a few.
All right. Democrats created Social Security, which is a scam. Medicare, which has some basis. I think it needs some more controls to make sure it's not abused. ACA, which is a bigger scam, the biggest freaking scam. And sick leave. Sick leave is not necessary in our public life. You know what people do? They go out and get jobs and they make money. And when they're doing service for other people, you pay them. And when they're not doing service to other people, you don't pay them. And if you're like me, maybe one day I'm going to get sick, right?
Yeah.
So you take the money when you're being paid and you stow it away in a shoe, right? You put it in your shoe. And then when you get sick, you're like, I'm just going to pay myself because I'm going to save some of it. I'm going to take my shoe money and I'm going to use that to pay my bills. I'm going to be able to be a good steward of when I give value, I get value. And I'm not going to force somebody else to give me value when I've given them no value in return.
Dumb question. What's ACA?
Unaffordable Care Act. The
UCA. Yeah.
That allows premiums and health insurance to go skyrocketing because it's subsidized by people who aren't them. So insurance companies can just say payday and keep raising costs. And the end consumer doesn't realize that their cost goes up because the government's footing the bill. Yeah. But if consumers got pissed off and they decided that the costs were too high, they can force insurance providers to lower costs because somebody else isn't paying for it. This is the magic formula. If you get somebody else to pay for something, dad's paying for the Red Lobster, then nobody at the table cares what the costs are. But if you make it so that everybody pays their own way, they're more deliberate in the choices they make because they're the ones that get the bill at the end of the meal. Mm-hmm. And across the board, I'm talking taxes that are paid, I'm talking benefits that are given. The Industrial Revolution made benefits happen. Do you know where benefits came from?
Mm-mm.
Competing industries. Like you had company A and company B. And company A was paying $30 an hour and company B was paying $30 an hour. They're like, hey, they're going to this place. Let me try to incentivize somebody to come to our place rather than your place. So they're like, hey, we'll give you X. So it was a negotiation between people that incentivizes me to choose company B over company A when they're paying the same amount, right? And now we built in these incentives where they're just expected things rather than appreciated things. And that's where things go wrong, is where, you give a government charity to someone and they no longer appreciate, they just expect it. And then you get Walmart riots where people are just stealing stuff because it's not like man, I'm so thankful that the government was giving what I needed. And I was trying super hard to get off of this entitlement. And, now that I don't have it, I can either choose A, well, it's time for me to make it on my own, or B, how dare you take away my benefit?
So when you steal the food and you take it home and then someone breaks into your house and steals your food, who are you calling? Are you calling the cops? Was that wrong? Or should you just give it to them?
Well, the Democrats would just give Walmart a subsidy. And so when you steal it, it's just a new tax on the taxpayer. Rather than someone who steals something goes to jail and says, you shouldn't do that.
Especially when there's a whole community of people saying, don't steal, I'll give it to you via the church or shelters or whatever.
And that's the role that the church played in your village, is that it came to be the place that you came to when needs need to be met or relationships need to be had or wisdom need to be imparted. That was a respectable part of our culture. And the church doesn't play that role anymore. Nobody's going to the church for wisdom. They're demonizing religion. They're not going there when they need help with something, because the church, guess what the church is going to do if you need help?
Help you?
Strings. Lots of strings.
Oh.
Because you're going to ask for help once and we're going to give it to you, but there's going to be strings on it that make you do different things so you don't need our help in the future. Because the church will then be, you have a 12-person lifeboat. And if you have 120 people that need a 12-person lifeboat, you have to make sure you have less people that need the lifeboat, not necessarily build more lifeboats. And the government just builds more lifeboats because it can print more money. The church is like, we have a finite amount of money that we have to spend, and we have to make sure it does the most amount of good. So it is better for us if you don't need us, and it's better for you if you don't need us. Government works the other way. Like, government's like, oh, voters? You mean if I give them money, they're going to vote for me? So they want more people in chaos to be in the water. And it's like, we can make as many boats as we freaking want.
Yeah. Julie says, those damn Dems.
Yeah. Dems equal bad at math. And that's why they're always at odds with me. They don't solve a problem. They create infinite problems. Is it bad at
math, or do they know exactly what they're doing and that is their game?
Oh, I'll hear that argument, because conservatives have given in to the bad math of Democrats for my entire lifetime.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, let's do Social Security, where it's a Ponzi scheme where it includes perpetual growth in population in order to be successful. But if we get a decline in growth, it's going to be in really bad spot. And then you got a bunch of really smart people who are like, yeah, let's just plan on exponential population growth. Let's do that one.
Yeah.
What if it contracts? We'll figure that out when we get it. And they're like, okay, bad math.
And it's not like Kamala Harris just did a long interview. I don't know if you saw this. She went on, it's Diary of a CEO, something Bartlett is his name. Long 2 hour something long podcast interview with Kamala Harris. And I had to skip through it because some of it was just too cringe.
The puppy that lost her way?
Yeah, like it was just too... One of the things she said is she believes we should lower the voting age to 16 because these young people are passionate about these issues. Cue the clip of Kamala just a couple years ago saying people age 18 to 20 something are dumb. Her words. They make bad decisions. That's why they have to live in dormitories. They have to be taken care of because they make bad choices. So why would she now be saying that age group is dumb? Let's lower it even more to people make major decisions because, they're passionate about these issues. We can manipulate them. We can make it all about emotion. We can promise them free things and that their life's going to be easy, and they don't see what we're doing.
Okay, so let me role play with you a little bit. Let's just say the Flis household had a family meeting and said, listen, it's required now that we bring in an outside decision maker in our household, everything from the finances to things that we do. Now, what I want you to do is we're talking as a family. I want you to create some standards of who you think would make really good deciders in our household. Okay. So what would the prerequisites be? Because you then have to live for the decisions made by whoever you bring in or a group of people to bring in. What would be sort of like good ideas and bad ideas? Let's create a little bit of a contrast.
Are you asking what characteristics is that person?
All right. So let me give you a hypothetical. So let's just say we want to bring the decider of where we eat every day. Right?
We could use help with that.
Okay. So what would be the prerequisites and a good decider deciding what the Flis menu was for that night? Should we bring in 16-year-olds?
Probably not.
No, because you'll be eating Chuck E. Cheese every night of the week and Sheetz and Cane's and fast food. There's some downside to that.
Yeah.
So who should we elect to be the menu decider in your household?
We should probably elect someone that knows about nutrition.
Okay. If that's the priority, if that's the goal.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's good to eat. Someone who knows about money and the cost of things and what it's going to cost us to eat certain things.
All right. What about financial decision making? What will your standards be? Do you want young, old, smart, dumb, experienced, not experienced?
Smart and experienced.
Okay. Now, what about deciding things where the people voting, like the Red Lobster meal, don't have a hand in paying the bill? Should the people deciding where you eat be not included in the cost of going to the place?
Yeah. Like there is no conflict of interest. Not, hey, I'm going to go ahead and make all your decisions on where you should eat. By the way, I own these 5 restaurants that I happen to be encouraging.
Okay, so skin in the game and experience and intellect should be prerequisites to being able to make decisions in our own households because we know what good versus bad is. So let's just say you don't own property. Should you be able to vote on property taxes? Because if you vote for a property tax and it wins and then property taxes get doled out, then the property owners feel that you didn't feel anything, right? You voted on something that doesn't affect you at all.
It'd be like me leaving my town, going to the other town and voting in their town election.
We know that we know the math on this. We should have people that, 16-year-old is not going to be able. What would be the inspiration, the incentive to have a 16-year-old to vote?
You manipulate.
You look at a spreadsheet and say, "Oh, 16-year-olds are really liberal, right? Their brains haven't formed. So the ideals of a young person are heavily liberal. The younger they vote, the better we do as Democrats." So you think Kamala Harris is going to pick, expanding, voting and giving anybody that's over 40 double votes, right?
Yeah. They're also at this sweet spot in life where you're about to be considered an adult and you're going to have to possibly provide for yourself and live on your own, or maybe you're about to be considering or going off to college, and that can be very expensive, but you're told you should do this. And so maybe you need free college, and maybe you need free food, and maybe you need a free handout. It's like this sweet spot of becoming a young adult, seeing the responsibilities that cost money, and somebody being able to swoop in and be like, what if I just give that all to you?
Yeah. Well, think about the deal. Like when you have a kid that's under 18, you pay for everything, right? So they get a free ride up until they're in your household. And then colleges are like, we're going to give them a free ride from the time they're 18 to in their 20s, right? And then social services are going to then extend free. So you can literally go from birth to death, having not paid anything into the system, not given a net value or net gain to the entire system of complete freeloader from birth to death. There should be a point, like all of us would agree, like let's give people a sampling, give them some education until they're 18, and then 18, you're on your F and own. And if you win, cool. If you lose, cool. But it's on you, not on me. I'll give you all the information up until you're 18, and then it's on you.
And As a parent, if you know that your child up until the age of 18 was handed everything and you're now gone, do you trust
Done.
they're going to be okay?
No, not at all. I got to go pee. So you're going to read some comments.
Okay, let's see. Brian says, the government is in the business of buying loyalty, therefore votes. By offering these programs with no checks and balances, it promotes lifetime's worth of abuse. Exactly. Lifetime worth of abuse. And I'm seeing it as two different things. You've got the people that abuse it, meaning maybe they don't necessarily need it. They can survive without it. They choose not to. They don't want to actually work hard, and they are abusing it. Then you have the people that have just been crippled by it. They don't know how to get out from under it. The handout is all they've ever known. They've now been crippled, and when the system fails or shuts down, they are now screwed. And nobody wants to look at that aspect. It's you're a bad guy, or you're assuming everybody's abusing this, and they're not. They're children, they're elderly, they're disabled. We're not assuming everybody using it doesn't need it. We are saying, let's not cripple our citizens by giving it to them unnecessarily and keeping them in this mindset and in this rut of not being able to provide on their own. I don't think it's good for them mentally either. I don't think somebody has a sense of value or self-worth and strong mental health if we paint that picture and give them that mindset. Brandon, hey, my mom was a single parent and in assistance her whole life. Most of my siblings now work the system, but my brother and I are not on the system. My sister is trying to do for herself. It is possible to break generational government assistance. Yeah, I'm Brandon. Exactly. That's awesome. There are people that needed assistance, people that maybe will temporarily need assistance. That's all fine. But like you said, break that. I've seen family members too that go on it and can't break it or don't want to break it. And then they're stuck. Brandon was just talking about he had a single parent, was on assistance her whole life. His siblings are now on assistance, but he and another sibling were able to break that generational government assistance curse. Is it a curse or is it just breeding bad decisions one after the other?
Well, and I get a lot. This is probably the topic that I get most pushback from friends because it feels dirty when I say it, but slavery is still around. Okay. So if you profile what slavery was when, how do you become a slave, right? You get bought into a system and then all of control and decision-making is taken away from you. And you could be born into that where you're just a child of a slave and you too become a slave and you don't have those options. Well, slavery light is when your options are controlled by a system, right? That keeps you in servitude to that system. So what do you have to do in order to keep your safety in slave light, the United States of America, right? You have to be convinced that there's no other option. So somebody tells you that you'll get electrocuted if you run through this fence. That keeps you on the perimeter. It'll tell you that the system's rigged. So even if you get out there, you're going to be killed, right? And you're not going to be able to make it out there because the system is going to slight you. So really, a whole part of the population is under the suggested delusion that even if they break out and go do it, it's so stacked against them that they can't do it even if they tried. That keeps them on that metaphorical plantation and always crying and complaining about it, right? Because they're thoroughly convinced that they have no choice otherwise.
You ever hear about that really cool study they did? Oh, it was on an animal. I can't remember. I don't think it was rats, but there was an animal that they would let run around like a piece of paper. And then they would make it stand still and they would take a pen and draw a circle around it. And the animal wouldn't move anymore because it believed it couldn't get over that line. And it was like, it's just a pen. Step right over it. And the animal didn't know that it can still move. It's sort of like what we do is
social controls.
You can't see past this. We've already told you can't do it. That's all you know. And now you're ours.
Yeah. And thankfully, it's not the majority of people who have been coaxed into believing that there's no other options. Like I can get in front of a microphone and talk to 1 million people and tell them that There's nothing holding you back except for you. Don't listen to the people who are telling you can't be done. And there is infinite opportunity ahead of you, right? Half the people will say, yeah, you're absolutely right. I've got a taste of that. And that's absolutely true. Half the people will argue to the death that you cannot, and how dare you, and what about this person?
And you're
what about this
heartless.
circumstance? And how,
Yeah.
right. So they will, it's that same dilemma, right?
Yeah.
I have a hostage. I am a hostage, and I will defend me being a hostage because I'm too
Too far
egotistical.
gone and
Yeah, I'm too
Yeah.
egotistical to think that I'm a slave. No, I'm not a slave. You're just a bad person for suggesting that I'm being held against my will or will against a bunch of the victim industry who wants me to stay
Yeah.
concentrated right where I'm at.
and you all should take care of me. This is what these people should do. And we should have a good life. And you should be willing to give it to us because that's our right. And
Yeah,
it's like,
so-
not a good life.
Yeah.
You're stuck and you don't even know it.
In principle, this is the Super Bowl of anybody who believes the way that we do and churches do, that people need to be individually accountable for their decision making. They need to tap into smarter people than them in order to impart wisdom so they make better decisions. And the safety net has to be extremely torturous to be there, where everybody's willing to help someone that gets in peril because it happens to everybody, and you really remember that forever. It becomes a core memory when somebody helps you out of a bad spot that you didn't intend to be in, and you're just a victim of circumstance.
Mhm.
But if you get too many of those, and the safety net is just as desirable as not having the safety net, then would you begrudge people that just live on the safety net? I mean, it's comfortable there.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to be there when you don't have to go to work instead of going to work?
It's comfortable there until it's not. It's comfortable there until you're in a situation like we find ourselves right now.
That's why I say it's a sweet spot, because it doesn't happen often. In my lifetime, maybe once every 4 years, that the freeloaders will get uncomfortable and they'll have to question whether or not they want to stay in the freeloader mode. Right. And I'm not talking everybody. We're not talking about the examples of people who really don't have any other choices. There are those amongst us. In a scaled civilization, you have a percentage, like single digit percentage of people just can't help to be where they're at. But everyone else is taking advantage of the system like they do every other system.
And it's because we have that population. We have that population that truly needs it. This is what it is for. Then everyone else needs to be more outraged over the ones who are abusing it.
Taking advantage of it.
Because you want to cry all day, you being, and not to say you, Julie, but you did use the example of the elderly and everything. We could cry all day long that these people need it. They need it. They need it. You're right. You're saying they need it. We're saying they need it. They do need it. So where is your outrage over those that are taking it from them via abuse and fraud?
Yeah. So if you helped your neighbor and, you know, like they were in a bad spot, they were like, man, I can barely buy groceries. And you said, here's $200. You didn't want to give the $200, but you were willing to give it because you're going to help. You picture yourself in that same situation. You're like, what would I love? I would love if somebody came along and helped me so that I could buy groceries. And then I took one pressure and anxiety off of me. Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to work really hard so I don't have to come to you for another $200. What if that person like went on a vacation the next week and you were like, dude, I gave you $200 and why did you just go on vacation?
Yeah.
Oh, I got a new check. Everything's cool and whatever. That diminishes your charitable nature when you see someone who obviously thought that was terrible optics to ask for a handout and then do something that is a premium, like a luxury. Like that hurts.
And my husband and I have been in that position where we weren't asked for a handout. This was somebody that was not asking anyone for something, but had made it known that they were in a bind, in a difficult situation. And we took several days, my husband and I, and we discussed ideas of what can we do? What can we give? What can we do to help temporarily? And just before we acted on it, we watched this person come into some money. We're very fortunate. Something happened. They got a bunch of money. And do you think it went to bills or groceries or gas or everything they said they need? No. They blew it. And I went,
because that's human
Scrap it.
nature. That
Scrap
is
our
absolute
ideas.
human nature.
Yeah.
Everybody in your community who has impulsive decision making or doesn't have intellect enough to be able to prepare, need someone like you to coach them, to tell them how to make better decisions.
I so badly want to be like, do you remember the other week when you were saying you don't know how you were going to pay this? Now you know. You're not going to go and order something or buy something or have fun with it. You just needed this paid for.
You would pay your essentials and put the rest in a boot. And that way, if you knew something came up, then the money in the boot that you saved would pay the peril in the future somewhere.
Yeah.
That's what everybody freaking does. And it's good, makes good mathematical sense. Our tax dollars have already been spent to fund SNAP. Reps want to punish people by not paying it. I believe you're talking about the $5 billion emergency fund that the Department of Agriculture puts away for an instance of chaos, right? Something bad happens and you need to dole that money out. It's an emergency fund, right? If your emergency fund, if you use your emergency fund, you got to be able to justify that it was an actual emergency. So you have to make the argument that the Democrats in the Senate don't consider it enough of an emergency to be able to, vote for the continuing resolution. Then why should the Department of Agriculture consider it an emergency when they don't? They're the legislature.
Yeah. And would you consider us in a state of emergency?
And that's a good question, because I think about the what ifs. If I had an emergency fund, and it was like, okay, you have a hurricane or wildfires or something come through, we're going to use this money for X. And if you say, hey, I want to use the emergency fund, and okay, I'm going to say that's going to buy you 19 days of filling in whatever person, because that's the actual math on it. What do you do if there is an actual thing that's out of your control? This is controllable because all you got to do is vote for it and then it's refunded, right? An emergency would be if you had no options. There's no way to get it funded.
Yeah.
Now use the emergency. Chuck Schumer is the guarantor of emergency funding, not the Department of Agriculture.
It's not like there was this act of God that occurred,
right?
And everybody's on the same page and there's truly nothing we can do. There is quite literally about 6 or 7 people that could end this.
Yeah. So I feel the same way the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Okay. So they warehouse a bunch of barrels of oil. And let's just say we get embargoed by one of our enemies and they cut off our oil supply. We have enough in reserves to be able to fuel consumption in the United States for a period of time to let politicians buy ourselves out of the product, find new funding sources so that we don't have a disruptive economy. It's for a specific purpose. Now, president comes along and says, gas prices are too high. So I'm going to use our emergency petroleum reserve to be able to lower gas prices. Then people like me are like, well, what happens if you use our reserves and then our enemy is saying, well, they just use our emergency fund. Let's hit them now. You're at a moment of weakness created when there was other alternatives to being able to do that. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, yes, you could buy us another 19 days, but I'm not sure that 19 days is a long enough, at the end of 19 days, then what?
Yeah. And I would even say, show me where the people then have exhausted all their other resources. Like we've been saying over and over again this morning, go to local churches, go to food banks, go to nonprofits, go to whatever. Show me that has been exhausted. And then maybe we'll discuss this. But if you've not even tried that,
right?
If theft is your first gut instinct and then asking your community for help is 2, 3, 4 down the line, not an emergency.
Yeah. There are enough people, and I've seen it on my feeds, that care enough about people starving that they could go into their pantries and help people out. That's the way it should be. We don't outsource charitable giving to the government to do it because they don't do it well enough. Now's our time.
I talked to one of our pastors just yesterday and I told him, I said, hey, by the way, I know that you guys have been talking a little bit about helping people and during this government shutdown and what people need. And I said, so if you guys need volunteers or somebody to go out and do something, let us know, like, what could you use help with? And he said, honestly, I've had more people come and say that than I've had anyone asking.
Yeah.
He's like, we are good and ready with a whole bunch of people ready to act, ready to go, ready to give whatever is needed. We need people to come to us and ask for help.
And again, like this is only day 3 of when the benefit should have come in and hasn't yet. So it's going to take a long runway for those people to figure out that the government's not here to help, and let me go out to. But if churches are readying for that onslaught, and people decide that church is better than stealing from Walmart, then we're going to erode some of those. Maybe at the end of this, we have 20 million people on food assistance because the other half of them now are doing it and getting their assistance in other ways. And that is the best outcome of this, is we get people off of that tit.
Yeah.
Brian says when public assistance becomes public entitlement, and that's more time, human nature will always exploit systems. It's just part of human nature. And so if you make something short term, it usually works out pretty well. The longer something lasts, the more it's exploited and the more people get on it that shouldn't be on there. So I would say public assistance short term, good. Public assistance in perpetuity, bad.
But then what we do too, and by we, I mean our government officials, will take something always intended to be short term, and when it stops, point the finger and say, oh, you took this away. What do you mean? What do you mean? I took it away. We all agreed this. Here's the end date. It's done. Look at everybody who was using that. You took it away from them.
Carter says Fetterman is the only Democrat senator that has common sense. All non-issue of Democrat vote to pass the bill. And that's the inevitability. Like, really, within the next 2 weeks, I see something happening. And just know, Democrats, that if you would have just voted for the continuing resolution, it would be right about now expire, later in this month expire. And then you would have gotten the legislation, at least in the conversation about the Affordable or Unaffordable Care Act and all the rest. So the time that it's taken the shutdown, you could have been at the finish line by now. So
Julie says, beat down the poor and give it to the rich. Is that your philosophy? Julie,
give what to the rich?
Julie, I'd love to hear how you got to that. How did you take a single thing that was just said in this past hour and translate it to beat down the poor and give it to the rich? Nobody said that. Nobody even almost said that. Please tell me what sentences you heard and how you made that jump, because nobody said that.
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish. Right. Lectured the billionaires about why are you a billionaire? Like,
give your money away,
So the overall philosophy is that, if you want the billionaires to be, taxed out of existence, then this is your moment.
And here's what's interesting. I saw that video. I saw Billie Eilish say that.
Eyelash.
If you're a billionaire, why? Give your money away. And I got curious and I said, do we have just a bunch of greedy, money-hungry billionaires that are just being selfish? So I did a little look up and looked at different billionaires like Warren Buffett and people who are truly considered billionaires. And what I found is they all have given away millions and millions of dollars through charities, philanthropic organizations. One person, I didn't know who it was, but apparently is a billionaire, has given away like a whole percentage of their net worth every year. You hear artists do it. You hear Billie Eilish gave away so many millions. Taylor Swift gave away so many millions. You don't hear when the evil billionaires do it. Did you hear about the evil billionaire that just offered to pay military pay out of their own pocket and they chose to remain anonymous?
Except we figured out it was Mellon.
It was who?
Mellon.
Oh, yeah. So here's another bullshit tactic used by the far left to keep us fighting instead of looking at what they're doing. Because all you want to say is everyone's a billionaire and they're greedy and they're taking all this money and they're bashing the poor. And I bet you've never actually met a single billionaire in your life and talked to them. And all I had to do was take 10 seconds on the internet and look up sources that tell me there's actually quite a bit given from billionaires, quite a bit. And my biggest point is, who are you to tell someone what to do with their money? Who are you?
Well, I said this is slavery light. Like, it's not about persuading people to do the right thing. Like, I'm not going to go force a church to give food out to people because I need to persuade, not coerce. Democrats, they are the plantation owners of slavery light. They want to control the behaviors and decisions of other people, right?
Mhm.
So I want to be able to go to Jeff Bezos, and because I disagree with what he does in his decision making, I want to be able to decide for him, force him into giving up more of his money. Why? Because it's a trough of value. If I could just take his trough of value, then I could give it to the Democrats over here for free. I don't put any stipulations on them. I'm like, I think that poor people shouldn't exist. In a prosperous nation like the United States, poor people shouldn't exist. And I will motivate them so that there's less of them. But I'm not going to coerce them. If you want to be poor, it is your freedom to absolutely make any decision, so long that you don't force me to do anything. So that is the philosophical divide here. Telling people what I'm going to force you to do versus giving people the freedoms to make choices. And if they work out, it's yours. And if it doesn't work out, it's yours.
I did see someone too. I don't know who they were. They commented on Billy's comment and they're like, interesting. I see your next concert is being held in this city, which is known to be a pretty poor area. And your tickets are $129 a ticket. Why would you charge so much? Why don't you put on the concert for far less so people could come to it? Oh, that's right. You want to make the money.
Well, a headline would be Billie Eilish holds a concert, makes $50 million and donates $49 million to somebody. End of story. And everybody like, oh,
that's
look
nice.
at this generous deal. But couldn't help themselves because the liberal tendencies come out of their face hole.
Yep.
And now they take a biased, ultra part. Wasn't inspired. I could have been inspired by it. So you had a moment to be able to motivate other people to do good things.
Mm-hmm.
And she squandered it by then lecturing billionaires and created sort of like a political wedge between economic and political wedge between the have and have nots.
Yep. I read something this morning that supposedly Jennifer Lawrence said. I say supposedly because I don't trust anything I see on social media anymore. But supposedly Jennifer Lawrence said, there's a lot of speaking out she would like to do about politics. She's clearly not a Trump fan, but she has said, I've got to be very careful on what I say because I'm seeing that, number one, it hurts my craft. I don't want to turn someone off to the arts and film because they now can't get past something I said.
Right.
If I give my opinion, you hate it. I've now ruined all those films for you, and I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And I agree. There are movies that I've not seen because I see the actor differently now. I don't want it to be that way. It just is. It's human nature. And she sees that, and I agree with it. She also said, while I would love to give my 2 cents and speak out against all kinds of stuff I disagree with, that's just adding to it. It's just further dividing. It's just not everyone's going to agree with what I say, and it will induce fighting. And I just don't want any more of that. And I'm like, good. Then be quiet.
Yeah.
But people can't do that.
Yeah. And I don't mind entertainers if they shared their, politics early on and they made it anyway, then they're not like holding you hostage. But let's just say you showed up and you supported them when they were completely neutral. But now that they had you there, they were going to pummel you with their political beliefs. And then you would feel completely hoodwinked.
Yeah. Like I saw Lizzo, again, saw it on social media, so it may or may not be true. But I saw something that said, Lizzo said, if you voted for Trump, do not play my music. And I went, I liked you, Lizzo. I supported you. I was all about
terms accepted.
Yeah. I was like, what the hell did we do? Like, why can't somebody be for a certain political person, idea, reform, whatever, and also support you?
Right.
Well, that's right. Because we got to be.
But she was comfortable in that decision. She felt confident enough to be able to alienate half of her stuff. And so be it. Those are her choices.
Yeah. It's a risky game.
Yeah. Let's see.
Brian, did we read that?
The government is in the business of buying loyalty and therefore votes by offering these programs with no checks and balances. It promotes lifetime worth of abuse. That's the Democrat playbook. If you looked at their playbook, it is basically use benefits to be able to create voters, use illegal immigration to create voters, control the media to create voters, control academic institutions to create voters. And so every one of those pillars of their existence is being thwarted by conservatives. So turnabout is fair play. So if you play those in one direction and they're played against you in the other direction, it's a balancing effect. You can't say, like, let's just say illegal immigrants, there was a poll done and 72% of illegal immigrants started voting conservative. How quickly would the Democrats bail on, I want a bunch of illegal immigrants? In a heartbeat they would, because that was their playbook.
Yeah. Why is it that years ago Dems are all secure borders and don't let illegal people in and they've got to come in lawfully and all these different things, and now it's a bad idea? Like, what? Wait a minute. One group is saying what you all just said, and now they're the bad guys.
Yeah, and I warn all of the Dems out there that it was a foolish errand. It was successful for more than a decade, but you guys are absolutely screwed at this point. Absolutely. Because if the Trump administration did anything, it was blockading the Democrat strategy for being elected forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Julie says Walmart pays their employees so little that they need to be on SNAP. 25% of their sales are from SNAP. They made $170 billion last year. Poor Walmart.
Yeah, and if let's just say you take, and this is like sort of like back end subsidy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you remove that from the marketplace, like nobody gets free money to shop in Walmart. You know what happened to Walmart? They'll recalibrate to the customers that do show up. So when you introduce inauthentic economic activity, then the marketplace responds to whatever it's being presented. You take that away, Walmarts don't go away. They just change. They're a different thing. So yes, they catered to the free checks that were coming through there. I don't think that Walmart employees are major constituents to the people who shop there, but you might be right that, if you have cheap products that people buy and you pay your employees because you have cheap products, that's an argument to be had. But I literally think that the economy needs to sort of have an underlying philosophy is let's take subsidies out of the equation. Anything that's inauthentic out of the equation. And let's get a real good handle on what real market activity is. And if we decide to put inauthentic stuff in there, fine. But no, that's what we're absolutely doing. So if you had agriculture, that 80% of all agriculture activity was subsidized by the federal government, you would, at a certain point, not know what the consumer base for agricultural products are because the whole thing is being paid for the government. If you rip subsidies away, do you think there would be pain? Yeah. But agriculture would respond. They would find, authentic marketplaces. Like let's just say we did the ethanol revolution in agriculture. We wanted to create ethanol for the energy sector. So a lot of farms shifted over to creating corn so they can sell it to the government and the government can find a place in the marketplace. All inauthentic. Farmers would have never picked corn in that density, and they would not been beholden to the government having that subsidy. So what would they have been doing? They may have been completely supplementing grocery store distribution or farmers markets distribution and been completely out of the corn industry completely if it wasn't heavily subsidized. So we don't know what it would have been like, but we have a chance, instead of every farm being corn and soybeans, because those are the two subsidized industries that they found a international marketplace for, maybe they start growing stuff that they can sell within 100 miles of wherever their farm is. And our complete grocery industry might be completely different if they would have done that 15 years ago instead of right now. So we have an opportunity to see what's real and what's not. Well, not without pain, where they're like, hey, I just dedicated all 1,000,000 acres of my farm to soybeans because you were offloading it to the Uganda to sell under government subsidies. Now what do? The next time I plant that field, maybe I'm not confident that you've got my back, Mr. Federal Government. Let me see where I could utilize this land and who I could sell to. That's maybe a grocery store that doesn't have to import lettuce from Florida that's deprived of nutritional value. Maybe I'm buying it from the guy down the road, and maybe we've made that whole thing solid by this point.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to what the real economy looks like when you pull all this government spending out of it.
Rip the Band-Aid.
100%.
Brian said something. Not as much slavery, more indentured servitude.
That's what I would call slavery light is indentured servitude for sure.
Oh, I skipped a couple. Oops. Brian says, so for a multinational company that is publicly traded and also has shareholders who are investors and expect a return on their investment, where do you draw the line as what is and isn't too much profit?
I don't think that's anybody's business what is and what isn't too much profit. What does too much profit mean? And golden rule in kindergarten, everybody learned, treat how you would like to be treated.
Yeah.
If you go out and take a risk, right?
Yeah.
And it works out, what is too much reward? Okay, you get up on a Saturday and you go sell candy.
Yeah.
Right? You took the risk of sacrificing your time to make 0 sales or 1,000 sales.
Yeah.
What if you make 10,000 sales that morning? What's too much success as it's applied to your
I don't think you can have too much success.
Okay. If you have a lot of success, what do you owe to other people? Do you owe people who didn't get up on Saturday morning and buy the candy and go out on the streets and have the risk of failure?
No. I don't know. You nothing.
Right. But again, the metaphorical trough is when that anybody has success, everybody who didn't get up that day and didn't load their bow and arrow and they didn't go out and hunt, all of a sudden are super interested in the deer that's in the middle of the village, right? Not being involved when it came to the sacrifice and the risk and the effort and the investment, but all of a sudden they're super interested in once the carcass is laying in the middle of the village. That's where I take exception to it, because nobody should be interested. The only interest that should be showed in a successful billionaire that went out and made it, or number one, is how can I do that too? How can I emulate what you were willing to do? So if Jeff Bezos set up 9 years in his garage making 0 money, not being able to pay his bills and created a bunch of debt, and then 5 years of losing money over and over and over again, and on year 6, he makes $1 billion. Like, do you want to visit him on year 6 where there's struggle and sacrifice and 0 confidence that you're going to make it? Or do you think more people are going to be in line on that year number 9 when he made his $1 billion and won a piece of it?
Why do you have $1 billion?
Yeah, exactly. Now, the argument I will hear from that crowd is if you have a sweet deal for enterprise where there's inauthentic gains because of the same kind of, social giveaways to certain companies. So if there's a company like the pharmaceutical industry that the only reason they make billions of dollars is because of sweet deals from the rest of the system, I will listen to that, make it authentic, make it so that you go out and sell your product and you might have a day that sucks. But if you force people to buy something and you indoctrinate people to buy something, that's inauthentic as far as I'm concerned. And those standards, that gaze should be pharmaceuticals first. And then secondly, the Walmarts, which your participation is completely on demand. You can choose to go to Walmart or you can choose not to go to Walmart. I'm not going to force you to doing it. But where do you buy your prescription and who benefits from it is basically given by your doctor, pharmaceutical, and insurance companies. You didn't pick that brand.
Yeah.
Right? It was picked for you, and they benefit when everything was against your will. You need competition.
That's the true corruption.
That is absolutely the true corruption. So I will take that crosshairs and I will put it at any time anybody's been given a sweet deal where they are insulated from risk, right? But get all benefit. And that's everywhere across the board.
Yeah.
And we're halfway through that game. So half of the businesses that could be playing the straight up game where it could be feast or famine like everybody else. I'm going to take a portion of what they do and exclude it and get Walmart operating, get Target operating, get pharmaceuticals operating where they get to share in the risks of the rest of us deal with. So I'm open to that part of the argument.
Yeah. Carter says having a job at Walmart is better than not having a job at all. Nobody puts a gun to anyone's head to work at Walmart.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I call her Billie Eilish too. Yes. Thank you, Patricia. How many millions are going to Trump's ballroom? His inauguration, his $1 million dinners, his crypto scam lobbyists, etc. Yeah, they're spending a lot of money in this deal, and I'm glad that we have a person that has a good relationship with big money to attract big money.
Yeah.
Voluntarily. Nobody made Melon give to the military. Nobody give someone give.
That's what kills me is people go, oh, it's his ballroom when all these other people are hungry. First of all, the taxpayers didn't pay for the ballroom. He took care of it. You didn't have to. It's no skin off your back. Second of all, if Trump uses this ballroom to hold benefits with wealthy billionaires and deals are struck and money goes to things that you then utilize, are you now mad about the ballroom? I want to know if a deal is struck with a billionaire that's now spending money for something that benefits the American people, and that deal was made over schmoozing in a new ballroom. Do you take that benefit, or do you say, no, I'm not taking this. It was a deal made in that ballroom, and I'm not accepting that.
So the slaveholders, the Democrats are the slaveholders, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's two philosophies. There's involuntary, where I'm coercing you to do something, and there is voluntary, where I'm allowing you to say yes or no, right? Mm-hmm. The slaveholders, they want to always control what you do. And you always know if you're talking to the slaveholder, whether or not they're like, was this decision forced upon you, or did you decide to do it? So if a billionaire voluntarily gives money to the military, nobody put the gun to their head, nobody held them hostage to make that decision. If you're like, Jeff Bezos makes too much money, and I'm going to coerce him to give his money to me, you know you are on the plantation slaveholding side of things. If you're like, hey, and this would be cool, right? Hey, Bezos, you make a lot of money. Would you like to give $9 billion to this? And then Jeff Bezos can say, yes, I would really like to give to this, or no, thank you. So you go up to the register and they're like, would you like to give $1 to starving kids? You have a choice. You can say, like me, I say, no, thank you. Right. Mm-hmm. And you have other people who are like, okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead and add that to my bill. That is the relationship that you have with other people. If it's like, hey, you're at my restaurant, we are adding $1 to your bill to feed starving children, and you don't have the opportunity to say no, it is not persuasion, it is coercion.
Yeah.
Man, I don't think calling Democrats slaveholders was a popular thing today. So
the same amounts that we spent for all the other presidential remodeling of the White House or their multiple vacations, et cetera, but you won't be open-minded enough to see past your TDS.
Yeah, and honestly, if it was across the board where somebody says, I don't like government spending, and then you were just like, I hate when they spend any dollar, then I could listen to you and say, yeah, there was dollars spent that cost the taxpayers and blah, blah, blah. But the people who are like sometimes okay with government spending and then sometimes it's not, it's only when it lines up with the person you didn't vote for, when you're really critical of like, he went on a plane and it cost $40 million. I'm cool with that as long as like Biden went on a plane and it cost $40 million and I oppose that one too. Then it's principally based and I'll hear it.
Like if someone's like, I don't want a ballroom. And it could be like, hey, we've elected a businessman that I'm sure schmoozes investors over parties. It's not a new concept, has happened for years. That's what we now have in the White House. And if there's outrage over that, was there outrage with like, hey, I want a basketball court. Hey, I want a movie theater.
Bowling alley.
Hey, I want a bowling alley. Hey, I'm going to do a new garden. Hey, where's the outrage for that when those things are specifically for the family?
Yeah, you can join me as a libertarian where I think when it comes to public service, they should spend the bare minimum to be able to do their mission statement that's hanging on the wall. Anything that's a luxury, marble floors, gold fixtures, whatever, it should be the same shit that you would get at a hotel. That would be a good steward of our tax dollars when the people making the purchases aren't like, when it's for the people, we give them luxury, and when it's for us, we do the bare minimum. I would have respect for that. But it's not like government in my entire lifetime has ever been frugal with the money that they spend on their pet projects, right?
Yeah.
So join me in saying all pet projects, like, hey, we want to do the Green New Scam, right? Mm-hmm. Let's be really frugal with the money that we spend. We're not going to give it to somebody who $40 billion to a solar panel company and expect them to build 2 solar panels. That's extravagant. That was really irresponsible to be able to do that. So I would listen to you, but you're inconsistent with when you decide to be frugal and when you decide not to be.
Yeah.
So join my side. Government sucks. It's terrible. Limit the money that they can spend because they're terrible decision makers. And now you're a libertarian.
Yeah. Brian says, answer me this, and this may open everyone's eyes to your view. Who is responsible for the current government shutdown?
I'm not playing this game. I'm not.
That's just going to be a fight.
Here's my opinion. If the government shuts down and you notice, then we're doing everything wrong. That's the deal. This is a political game where Republicans shut down the government, Democrats. It's a dance that they're doing. And sometimes when they shut it down, they can hang it around the necks of one group and they can hang it around the next. And so I won't play that game. They're both shitty.
We're hostages to our government.
If they're really good at their job, then they are invisible to the rest of us. So let's just say private companies. So we have people on the board. We have a board of directors that can't come to an agreement. Right. Mm-hmm. And they're responsible for making sure that parts get ordered, payroll gets paid, insurances get paid, pensions get funded, and everything. That's their sole obligation, is to make sure all of the liabilities that we all agreed to get done. So you have a couple people on your board that are like, you know what? I don't like this guy over here. He got newly elected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this company to a screeching halt. So there are 10,000 employees and there's 10 people on the board. And all of a sudden it's like, guys, you're not getting paychecks this week because those people over there are doing this. And then these guys are like, no. You're not getting paychecks this week because those guys are doing this. And then they're like, hey, we want to know, all you people who are not getting paychecks, whose fault is it? And the people are going to be like, you're all fucking stupid. Mm-hmm. You're all gone. Because your only obligation is to make sure whatever you promise, you come through for. And right now, you're all breaking that bond or that promise to us. You're not doing your job. So I'm not going to play your little game about who's more responsible. You're all fired, and I'm coming in with new people.
Board of director can be kicked off the board. God. Our problem is we can't do that. We are at the mercy of the board. Well, and we're their hostages.
But half of your employees think that they don't have the ability to just get rid of everyone and start with a new board who takes the mission seriously.
Yeah.
And this was my favorite example. Okay, so whenever there's a school levy, and I'll use Main Street School, right? Mm-hmm. And Main Street is like, man, you know what? We need some extra money. We got a little bit of a shortfall. We need some money. And then they're like, hey, how can we cut back on some funding here? And you look around and like, man, we're just at, we're not spending a whole lot of money here. We're not paying labor too much. We're not paying niceties. We're not doing sports. We're not overspending anywhere. This is a problem for the public, right? So of all the things that they can cut, you know what their first choice usually is?
Busing.
Why do they pick busing every single time? Why? Because you inconvenience the people, and you have immediate direct outrage, and they are super ready to now vote for whatever makes busing go back on the road. So it's a game that's being played. They could cut out the number of copies that you make, or the extracurriculars, or the extra, aides and payroll that they have to pay. But they don't pick any of those ones. It doesn't make anybody mad. They have to suffer the consequences of making those cutting certain expenses. But the busing will make the people pissed off.
Yeah.
And they're super likely to put pressure on whatever gets the buses back in there, and is a sure strategy to get what you want without having to make local sacrifice within your school. It's the same thing that happens in government. If you can get people pissed off and they put pressure on to just keep spending and spending and spending in the shortest amount of time, that's the strategy that we're experiencing right now.
Matthew says, Brian McHattie, Brian McCaddy, Repubs, they refuse to solve the dilemma on public health care.
Yep. Would you went anywhere near public health care at this point?
Would I want?
Yeah, you're an engineer. You get sent to Washington and say, solve it. Would you want any? Why? What
It feels futile. Like, what are you going to do? Come up with a really good idea, throw it out there, and watch it just get bashed or ignored or voted
because
down?
Really, any way to solve it is impossible. Like,
right.
You can't solve it in the way that it needs solved.
Nope.
All it can either become is the shitty version of it as it's right now. So the Republicans are fighting for the shitty version it is right now, and the Democrats want it to be completely taken over by government. So you got two terrible options, right? Of the only potential in something getting passed are those two terrible options. I don't want anywhere near it.
Yeah. Because we don't have a system that is fighting for the best idea or the best game plan. We have two people fighting to be the winner. I just want to win. I want to be in power. I want to be the administration in power. I want the votes. I want this. That's the fight. It has nothing to do with what actually makes sense, what's best for the people, what we should have, or any direction we should go in. None of that matters. None of that matters. We are literally pawns in a bullshit game between two sides.
Yep. So if we just status quo it and let healthcare be broken for another 10 years and give the wisdom on everyone else, the system sucks. Do whatever you can to be outside the system. And politicians, give us some alternatives to compete with your broken system. Through attrition, let's get as many people out of that system as we possibly can, almost like the SNAP and EBT. Get as many people away from your brokenness as we possibly can. Then we will methodically cut out the broken pieces, only to be taken a market force system where people are directly paying for what they're receiving. And just like I said, it's going to take 50 years to get enough people out of the broken system and on a system that's more pure and more market correcting or market gravities are placed on it. And then what do you do with the people that are left that truly are? Maybe it's 10% of what it is right now. Maybe it's 5%, but we don't know because it's inauthentic. We forced everybody into a broken system. And now those people are victimized because they trusted the government can come through on a promise that they made. And the board of directors are fighting over who's going to be in power positions, who gets left holding the bag. Voters. So the two parts of wisdom: get out of the system as quick as you can, neuter the system so that you it can't have an effect on you. And the next decision you make, whether or not to give it to the private side or give it to the public side, choose the private side. That is the 3 points of success. Like they're doing in schools. Wait to get a job or get a job.
Yeah.
Wait to have babies until you're married. This is the keys to success. Break away from the government systems, neuter the systems, and never give another responsibility to those systems.
Yeah.
Period. Welcome to libertarianism. ACA was better than what we had before. Ha! Ha 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 ha.
Do you disagree, Joe?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Do you want to elaborate or no?
My goodness.
Joe's like, I don't even have the time to elaborate.
That's the biggest farce that I have heard in my lifetime. Can I make an analogy that will take my laughter and at least make my fake forced laughter and make it into something?
Yeah.
I'm going to use my Red Lobster analogy because I don't know. That's the first thing I thought of. Okay. So you decide that going to Red Lobster is too expensive and we need to reduce the costs for everybody who's paying for their own meal. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to fix it. Right. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to force everybody in the restaurant to buy Red Lobster. Like it's forced. You have to. It's the law that you have to subscribe to Red Lobster. Right. So we got this extra money that's coming to Red Lobster. Right. And then we're going to subsidize everybody's checks to people who are not at Red Lobster. So really, from your experience of being at the table, You were paying $100 for your Red Lobster. Now it's freaking 80. Everybody gets Red Lobster. Everyone gets Red Lobster. And then somebody audits the cost of Red Lobster and finds out, well, holy shit. Like, not only is it not $100, it's like $1,000 to go to Red Lobster. But the people who didn't even get to enjoy the meal at Red Lobster are paying for the effing Red Lobster. So when it comes down to it, it was complete fabrication of what you experienced as the consumer. And the only way to know that is if we turn it off and let the costs then come like a tsunami to the people who are at Red Lobster, like $800 for Red Lobster. How does that happen? It's because it was subsidized with people who were outside. The people didn't get to enjoy the meal. They were paying it the whole time, right? Mm-hmm. So it was a complete illusion that healthcare was freaking fixed by forcing people to buy your Red Lobster when they didn't get to enjoy the Red Lobster. That's why you got the maniacal laughter from me, because the whole thing was an illusion. You bought into it, you believed it, but it wasn't real.
And what I could say is, hey, look, you took away the money from people paying who weren't ever eating Red Lobster. You made prices go up.
So why did
you were paying 80? So now you're paying 800.
Let's just say that Red Lobster was the government, right? And the or the pharmaceuticals or the medical industry. So let's just say somebody else is paying the bill, right? When you raise prices on something, and I get to look at you and say, "Hey, Kelin, the thing I'm doing your landscaping. It's going to be $125 next time instead of $100." And you're like, "Okay, well, what more value am I getting?" Well, my costs have gone up and whatever. Right? We can have a conversation about it, and you can put pressure back on me to not raise my prices. And I have to actually make a justification as the end consumer for why I'm making the prices. And it's a negotiation, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Now, let's just say that somebody else is paying for the landscaping, right? And you as the landscaper, I'm the consumer now, you're the landscaper. You're like, somebody else is paying for the landscaping. You don't really have to make a justification to anyone other than the people that are paying the bill. And so, like, if I said, hey, you're going to go to Red Lobster and I am going to limit you to $200 for this meal, right? Mm-hmm. How many people in that enterprise are going to submit $100 when they were green-lighted for $200? What do you want to bet that most of the green lighting that happens always is butting up against the top limit of the $200? And then you wait enough time and they're like, oh, everybody's almost using the whole $200. Let's make it $300. And what do you want to bet? Everybody in the landscaping group is like, oh, they're paying $300 now. Let me write up a slip and it's $299.99. And then you have this perpetual butting up against the most amount that can be paid. And they have runaway costs in one direction. Where if I had to justify it once a year, my costs have gone up. At least it's a fight that keeps me honest as the person that's providing the service, and it keeps you honest for pushing to make sure you're still getting good value. Again, broken system. No, it's no surprise that something that used to cost $400 costs $4,000 now.
Yeah. Julie says, if corps don't pay the same in taxes by the loopholes they are afforded, then it is my business.
Tell me about these loopholes. And I there's a certain segment of loopholes that I will agree with, but give me an example of what loopholes you're talking about.
Yeah, Carter says Democrats use the loopholes just as much.
But what loopholes? What are the loopholes? There's such a misunderstanding about companies and making them analogous with taxpayers. Companies are not taxpayers. So we'll use Amazon because this is a favorite topic. So if Amazon lost money in 2000, they lost $100 million. And in 2002, they lost $400 million. So they're up negative $600 million. And in 2003, they make $1 billion. How much should they pay in taxes on $1 billion? If they lost $600 million, right? And they made $1 billion, what should they be taxed on?
The difference?
The difference, right? Yeah. So $400 million would be a taxable event. Now, let's just say Amazon, they knew it was coming close to the end of the year, and they're like, I'm going to take $400 million. I know I'm going to pay taxes and build another distribution. So they spend $400 million on a new distribution that creates more jobs. Now they've spent $600 million in losses from the last 2 years. They invested 400 million, so their profit is zero. Even though they made $1 billion, what's their taxable profit? $0. Now the next year they make 400 million and they reinvest 400 million. What's their taxable profit? $0. What happens if they make $1 billion and then they spend $1 billion? What's the taxable profit? $0. They can perpetually extend when they pay taxes forever in the future, as long as they keep reinvesting back into the economy and making more stuff and hiring more people and making more capital improvements. So would that be considered a loophole so they don't have to pay taxes?
Because if you tell them, hey, I lost 500, made 1,000, they're like, okay, we're going to tax you on 1,000. Do you think they're going to be like, well, shit, I'm not doing anything else then. I'm not going to make another factory. I'm not going to create more jobs. I'm not going to do any innovations. You just lost me money. We're done here. And then everyone's like, oh, why can't we work in their factory? And why can't we make things in the United States? And why can't we lower the costs here? Well, I don't know. I could have done all that, but you chose to make me pay more taxes than necessary. And you wrap this up in this cute little bow of, it's not fair. Look at all this money, because you're hearing millions and billions. And so you think it should be millions and billions of taxes. And that doesn't even make any sense.
Let's use the taxpayer version of this. So in the tax code, there's depreciated losses, right? So that would basically be, let's just say you get an income tax return or a check at the end of the year.
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's just, basically that's an overpayment, more money that you gave to the government. So let's just say you get $1,000 back at the end of the year. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to depreciate your overpayment. And I'm going to basically let you claim $100 of that for the next 10 years. So even though you paid $1,000 in that year, I'm only going to give you $100 back. And I'm going to give you $100 now for the next 10 years. If you have a year that you don't have an overpayment, then I'll use that $100 that I owe you. I financed what I owe you back over the next 10 years. As a taxpayer, would you be happy that I'm making you wait 10 years to get back your losses or get back your refund?
Probably not.
All right. It's not a fair thing, but the government allows, if you take a loss, you have to depreciate it over a number of years until you are able to realize the rest of the loss. So you might make, if you made $1 million this year, right? Yeah. Or I'm sorry, you lost $1 million this year and you made $1 million, like 1 for 1, that you'd be at zero and you wouldn't pay tax that income. But I'm going to take your $1 million loss and I'm going to make you take the $100,000 over the next 10 years. Guess what my taxes are when you make the $1 million? $900,000. Because I'm only letting you take 100,000 of it. You're going to pay taxes that you don't have in a bank account that doesn't exist and make you pay 30% taxes on that 900,000. Fictitious taxes.
My money and I want it now.
That's right. So every loophole that exists, there's also a countervailing unfairness that companies are put under, where they have to do certain things that absolutely make no sense. It's almost like the property tax. You remember when they were like, we're going to take the increased value of your, not property tax. So we're going to take the increased value. So you bought a house for $200,000, right? Yeah. And now it gets reevaluated and now it's worth $400,000. Well, you haven't sold your house yet, but that's an increase in capital gains on your house. So now you're going to pay 30% on the $200,000 that your house increased in value. Give it up. And you're going to argue, I haven't sold the house yet, right?
Is that realized gains or something?
Unrealized
gains.
Yeah. So you haven't sold the house, so you didn't realize the gains, but since it's valued more, then you have to pay me 30% on the increased value of your house. That seems like a very unfair prospect to charge you something that on a situation that hasn't occurred yet, but because the thirst for taxpayer money is so great, they have to invent creative ways of taking more money from you so they can give it to other people.
Yeah, I used to get so excited when I got these little monthly emails from our mortgage people, and it was like, oh, your house is now worth this much. I'd be like, oh, it's worth more than we paid for it. That's exciting. But I could actually be screwed over for that.
Yeah, right. And then you'd have to sell your house to pay the taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, I have no plans on ever moving, but eventually probably might have to because they're going to push me out.
Yeah, I want to hear about these loopholes. So, Julie, if you have some actual loopholes that I can explain to you, it's probably a misunderstanding where the warring classes of the two don't really understand how the system works. Like when you hear Elon Musk makes $1 trillion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he has a paycheck that makes $1 trillion?
That's like $1 trillion? Probably not.
Right. So if there's 26 paychecks in a month or 26 paychecks in a year, he got $1 trillion divided by 26 and he took his paycheck, and it's not how that works.
How many zeros are on a check for $1 trillion?
That's a lot of zeros. That's 12 zeros.
Holy cow.
Yeah, lots of zeros.
I promise you he's not getting that check.
No, more than that, because it's 9. No, it's 12. 12 zeros.
Dang.
But in a consumer's world, you think Elon Musk is receiving an actual paycheck like you do. What if you got paid in stock? What would that be like? What would your taxes be like? Well, here and really there's only one condition where I will agree with most of the Democrats. This is a little bit of a loophole that I don't agree with. So let's just say I paid you in stock. Okay. And you're not charged a tax on stock until it's sold. But I can go to a bank and get a loan that is leveraged based on my stock. And then I spend the money that I leveraged from the loan, 0 taxes whatsoever.
So it's sort of this valuable thing. I can use the value of it whenever I want. Hey, give me this. I'll pay in this. I'll pay in this. I'm not actually giving it to you. I'm saying I have it. That's valuable enough, and it's not being
taxed. You'll give me a loan, right?
Yeah.
That is pinned by the
this
value
valuable
of the
thing
stock. As long as I don't sell the stock, then the bank doesn't care. They'll give me the money that's based on the stock, and I have gone around paying taxes in that deal, and it's a lot. And again, I'm not going to say a lot. I'm going to say a portion of people who are paid in stock take the luxury of being able to not be taxed on what they use as far as the loans go. And I'll argue that, and they should put an end to that for sure.
Okay. Matthew says Trump is suing the Justice Department for the amount that the ballroom will cost. The taxpayers are paying for it. In all capital letters.
Makes me want to do a fact check real quick, but I'm going to say you're incorrect. And I'm not in the blind. You're incorrect, and that's not true.
Suing the Justice Department for what? What's the lawsuit?
Good question. Matthew, share with us what the lawsuit is for, and give me a link, and I'll follow it. And I think it's untrue.
Julie says, are you so naive as to believe that these people are not expecting favors? Ask Changpeng Zhao, Trump's crypto buddy that got a pardon.
No, I'm not naive at all. In the political realm, talk to anybody who's actually in the political realm. When they do a deal, it's because of the favors that come along with it. So I will invite an illegal into the country, and they will vote for me. I will give a campaign donation because they're going to represent me. That is the name of politics. That's what politics does. So I'm not naive. That is the freaking game.
Julie, you're being offered favors in return for something.
That is politics.
Everybody is. Carter says, how much government spending now is due to Biden letting millions of illegal aliens into the country? That's a lot of ballrooms.
Yeah, it was definitely a quid pro quo, and that's the game of politics. And you do not want to put politicians in charge of something, because that is it's almost like take a skill set of a politician. It's getting stuff done by assembling a bunch of people that support you that will help you get that thing done. So if you have a lawyer that knows a prosecutor, or a prosecutor that knows a judge, that's an asset, because you can get more stuff done when you know a judge. It would be great if lawyers didn't know anybody and they let their case do their thing, But what happens when I get a call a favor in for a prosecutor because I've known him for 20 years and I golf with on weekends? That quid pro quo happens every day.
Yeah.
So when you give lawyers, that you pick a lawyer that has the most influence on the system, and they're a good lawyer, they can get a lot of stuff done. You take a public defender who's not respected by anybody and let them plead their case, and they're not as effective. But when you play that game, you have to know you're playing that game and limit your exposure to that environment. Like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Julie says Obama paid for his basketball court out of his own pocket. And who paid for the ballroom?
I'm gonna look at that whole basketball court paying out of his pocket thing. That's gonna be my next fact check, and I'm gonna go 2 for 2 as that
Even
is
if he
BS.
did, even if he did, he took care of it without the taxpayers. Trump took care of it without the taxpayers. You just don't like one of them. Matthew says libertarians want all the benefits of living in a government state, but hate all the taxes and downsides that come with it.
Now, that would be anarchists, not libertarians. Libertarians have a bent where the opposition is part of balance. So if taxes are too high, you're going to get libertarians to have less. Not none, but less. When you have government spending, you're going to have not no government spending, but less. And so the libertarian persuasion, if you have to decide whether or not this limits liberty or whatever, you know what direction they're going to go on. There's just a point where liberty, something like, let's just say we neutered government, we had less spending, and now the liberties were put at risk because of lack of government abilities. Then you're going to have libertarians pushing on more spending. It just so happens we live in an area where liberties are being crushed by government. The footprint of government is killing personal liberties. There might be a point where personal liberties are being squashed just because the government is so small it can't induce more expansion of rights and liberties. So we just in an era where that's more obvious and more pronounced.
Obama also used it to host wounded vets and sports teams. Guess what the ballroom's being used for?
Diplomats and
yeah. It is on. Oh, did we lose it? Man, we've missed a lot of comments. Matthew said something about it's on both sides.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, guys, we really got to catch up.
Oh,
didn't open today. Breaking news.
We'll read that in a second. Let me get. Brian says on both sides.
Brian,
please, for the love of God, acknowledge that fact. Burisma is the first and most simple example. For sure,
yeah.
The game that's being played is played equal on both sides for sure.
Yeah,
as many as quid pro quos of you do this for me and I do that for you. I always, acknowledge like the Biden family usually does a quid pro quo for personal interests over national interests. So let's just say Trump builds a ballroom and he invites a bunch of world leaders and he doesn't siphon the money to his own personal bank account, but he does something for the good of the country. That is not something I'm comfortable with, but I'm more willing to tolerate. If Hunter Biden uses the influence to be able to put money in his local bank account, he should be hung. He should never be able to touch the levers of government. But the temptation that once you go from using quid pro quo for national interest is so easily then done for personal interest, that dividing line needs to be suspicious of. And as soon as you give me an example where Trump uses a scam coin for personal enriching versus putting that money into his campaign or whatever, I'm looking, but hasn't materialized in the real world yet, but I'm open to it.
We'll give it time. Why does government healthcare work in every other civilized country, but we can't figure it out?
Because the United States is the sugar daddy for all countries. So let's just say you have the Nordic countries, right? The Nordic countries are little sugar babies out there. Right? National
Sugar
defense.
babies.
If we get a threatening country of the Nordic states, they're like, oh my, I don't have a Nordic impression, so I can't even say
I
what
don't
Nordic
even
people
know
sound.
what. Yeah.
And they're like,
be.
oh, we didn't do military because we were doing healthcare. United States, will you help us? Diplomacy. Oh, we don't have an economic force in the world. United States, will you help me? Oh, we're not developing our own pharmaceuticals because we don't have the economy to support that. United States, help us. So those Nordic countries, if they were actually paying for all the services the United States that they're benefiting from, they would be 120% in taxation, but we're doing it for free, right? And so again, Canada can give you all the healthcare that they want so long that there's a United States that is footing the bill for everything that they experience.
And is it going well in Canada? I've heard all these people say it's awful because wait times are horrendous. You can't get anything you need. You're like waiting months for a test or an appointment.
And it's all being subsidized by U.S. taxpayers who are economy is making all of that happen. You get the United States to disappear, and with socialized medicine, and there's no market forces at play. Who becomes the United States and does that for the rest of us? Because we need to have our sugar daddy lined up before we decide we're not going to be sugar daddy anymore. Who's it going to be? Who's doing it well enough?
Who's our sugar
has the
daddy?
economy to support it? Who has the defense mechanisms? Who has the diplomacy advantage? Who's the next United States? And do we want there to be a United States? We're like, oh no, like we're going to be dominated by not a benign entity that has sort of like noble virtues. We're going to be this country like, oh, let's take Maduro. Maduro has the drug money to be able to support developing pharmaceuticals and whatever. Do we want him to be in charge? Who's the next good country that's out there? Zero. There are none. There's not a country that I would.
We don't get a sugar daddy.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
Youngstown studio. This is BJ says breaking news: the Southern Park Mall didn't open today because employees and security reported didn't get paid. Foregone conclusion: the company that has ownership of the Southern Park Mall hasn't paid their property taxes in a couple of sessions here. Utility problems of power companies not being paid for the lights being on, and now they can't open the doors because they didn't pay their bills. This is the death. R.I.P. Southern Park Mall.
Dur, dur, dur. We need to play that. Dur.
Sorry, Southern Park Mall.
Oh no.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and talk.
Turning
Matthew,
it on for. We're doing it, Matthew. We're getting you. We're turning on the phones. Matthew says, Julie, if you're still talking about Buriyama, you might have Biden derangement syndrome. I have not heard of Biden derangement syndrome, but that's interesting.
Well, Trump has Biden derangement syndrome.
Oh my God.
You can't have a freaking
Did you
press
see
conference.
60 Minutes last night?
Studios host and Call Street Airlines.
So there was a whole 60 Minutes interview with Trump last night, and I tuned in, and the first words out of my mouth were, gosh, shut up. Like, she couldn't even get the question out with a Trump. Well, he was the worst.
And can manage
He's the
your
worst
callers
president
from the
ever.
Call
There ever was. I
Studio
was like,
web
all right,
interface.
all right, we get it. You think he was the worst president ever? Let's move on with the interview.
I think they should set a rule that after 3 months of any presidency, you can't even reference the previous administration.
Yep.
Okay, Brian says it's just as broken, if not more broken, in Canada's socialized healthcare system. Months of wait times, subpar doctors, if any doctors at all, and multiple months of waiting to try and get on appointments. But that's what you give something away for free, and you don't have the value and respect of the people who are consumers that treat it as a resource that needs to be spared and is sacred. You just have mass. And you can't help it, but you have to defend, or else you're swamp the lifeboats. And that's just.
Should we check our time if we are getting a call from Matthew? 10:55.
Oh, we only got 4 minutes. Damn it.
Matthew, I would say, Matthew, if you call, you might have like 30 seconds to state
Matthew
your
said,
case.
why should companies pay taxes only on the difference when I don't get to do that? The difference of what?
You're saying if they lose $1 million, then they make $1 million, or if they lose $1 million, but they make $1 million something, like we were saying, pay taxes on the difference, not the total. He says, why do they get to do that? We don't get to do that.
You do that when you itemize on your regular taxes. If you take a tax deduction that is you forwarding a liability so that you're insulated from taxes on that liability. And I don't care if you do the free ones that they put online, you're taking exemptions. When they give a child tax credit, you're getting an exemption on a portion of the money that you have to pay in taxes. You're doing that every single year. And you don't have to wait 10 years to get it back. You get it back now.
Yeah. Did BJ give us a warning?
Not
How
yet.
many minutes?
Well, we're like 5 hours behind here.
Yeah.
If companies suck at their business too bad, isn't that not that if you suck at managing your money, then you shouldn't get any food? If you suck at business so bad that you shouldn't get any subsidies? I agree with you.
Yeah. Oh no, I think we have Matt, but I don't know if we have
Sorry,
time.
Matt. We only
Matt,
have like a minute, so
we'll get you this week, Matthew. We
Elon
promise.
funnels his money into the Musk Foundation and sucks at the tit of government. Bezos makes $250 billion and pays nothing, only because of the extreme losses. And those, you got to give me the loophole though, because I'm really interested if there's one that I don't realize exists, and everyone that I've been told is a loophole, easily explained by a manipulation, creative, whatever. But the deal is, like, there's an eventual time where you have to realize a gain in the future. You can't just, I mean, let's just say Amazon or AI or NVIDIA always take their profits and every year invest in more infrastructure in the future. Then they can literally kick taxes down the road forever. But then you look at the economic improvements. If Amazon has 1,000 distribution facilities and millions of jobs, did you not have a realized benefit from allowing them to take what money that would be taxed? So let's just say their tax burden was $1 million, right? If Amazon using that $1 million and building a facility and creating jobs versus giving the $1 million to government, where is there a better benefit on society? I'm going to go the Amazon route.
I think we're out of time.
Damn it. There's so many more comments.
Time
we could go
flies when you're having fun.
Hour. Stock buybacks. So stock buybacks, let me take the next minute and tell you what a stock buyback is?
No.
We're going to put it in terms so that everybody understands. What's a stock buyback? So a company issues stock to raise capital to make some kind of improvement. So you divide the operations of your company into buyable shares, and then somebody gives you money for that share and they own that, right? And so when you want to raise money, like if I wanted to buy a big piece of $1 million equipment, I would take my revenue, separate it, offer it to sale for other people, right? And then so when you buy the shares, you're saying, I think your company is going to be worth more if you make the improvement based on the money that I'm giving you. If you buy the piece of equipment, it's going to increase your revenue, and then my share will be worth more money. So once I sell shares and I make the money, then I buy those shares back up, because in the future, I'm going to buy another piece of equipment. But if all I have is outstanding shares, right, I can't use that to raise money the next time. So I buy back those shares so then I can reissue them in the future when I want to buy my next piece of equipment or make my next capital improvement. Easy to understand, right?
Okay.
All right, we're out of time. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching out there. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Youngstown Studio, and we will see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. This is original Youngstown content. Feel free to share our videos and tell your friends about us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook. Thank you.